Happy Carter Bryant Draft Day!
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas, and we are in beautiful, lovely downtown Phoenix at PHNX HQ2. Kevin, it is NBA Draft Day. Are you fired up on a Wednesday afternoon here, leading into the NBA Draft?
Yeah, man, I am very fired up. It's always an exciting day. So many new beginnings, so many dreams being fulfilled on this day, Damon. As always, when drafts come around, I'm very excited for Carter Bryant, very hopeful for Caleb Love, and apparently Trey Townsend, if you ask DRF. But yeah, it's a great day. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is the middle of the week, and I'm excited to break down everything and everything related to Carter Bryant on today's show with you, Damon, dog.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are watching this video not live, but say maybe you clicked on this video after Carter Bryant got drafted by your team, this is the place to be. Kevin and I are going to break down Carter Bryant's game from, his biggest strengths to his, worst weaknesses, if you will. Yeah, we're also going to talk about our favorite fits for him and give you our NBA draft props. If you're here live, you want to get in on some draft props with me and Kevin Thomas. Kevin, I'm feeling like winning some money tonight after seeing some of these props. I don't know about you, but we'll get into it here later in the show. But some of these things, they're looking a little juicy here. And I don't know, man. I'm feeling lucky tonight. But we are going to get into Carter Bryant first and foremost. Carter Bryant, obviously, looking to become Arizona's 27th first-round pick tonight. Definitely, very well deserved, right? Like he's a blue chip prospect, blue chip recruit. There's a reason in which he has found himself in this spot, and it is a combination of his, great attitude and work ethic combined with athleticism and tools that are, you can't teach, right? So Carter Bryant, thrilled for him tonight. What did we have from Carter Bryant regarding his media availability that he, had, I believe, yesterday?
I believe yesterday
leading
morning.
up to the NBA draft.
Yeah, CB, Carter Bryant spoke to the media, including, Arizona Athletics, who we shout out to you as well for some of this coverage, doing a great job. Also, real quick side note, Erica Day had a tweet about this. Arizona Athletics is doing a great job of showcasing alumni as of recently, and we can get into that later. But Carter Bryant did speak to media, and he did tell us about his vibes in general, how he's feeling entering this draft process for the first time.
Good. I'm grateful. I think I'm just more excited than anything. And they're kind of starting to get to me, starting to go through the whole circuit of doing everything, learning what it's about in this league. But I think I'm just more excited than anything.
The waterworks are going to come from Carter Bryant tonight after watching that video when he does ultimately get selected. Another takeaway I had from that, Kevin, Shane Diefenbach was going around here talking about Carter Bryant. He thought that he'd be wearing, one of the old school early 2000s big baggy suits. In a way, Carter's kind of got that going with the fold over suit, but not baggy. Tailored up,
little retro
fit to
vibe.
him, but a little bit retro to it. So, we can respect it. What we need is like a Carter Bryant, like nice, like fedora or something stepping in.
Yeah, they have great fashion in Toronto, Damon, one of the fashion capitals of this North American continent. And the Raptors are in the lottery, one of the teams that could pick Carter Bryant. I believe a Raptors reporter, I would assume a Raptors reporter, was asking Carter Bryant about, his possibility of working out with Toronto. And this is what Carter Bryant had to say about the city of Toronto and their taxes.
I didn't get the opportunity to work out with Toronto. Right. What are your thoughts on the city, just the situation of Toronto? Yeah, it's a great organization. I think about inside Jerry, and he's a great dude. obviously there was a lot of guys that are exactly like me, long, lanky, defend multiple positions, shoot the ball, kind of do everything. And they have multiple guys on their team, and I kind of watch them try to break down for the film. So, I mean, I've heard nothing but amazing things about Toronto. The only bad thing I've ever heard is this taxes. That's the only bad thing I've ever heard.
Carter Bryant trying to get his money right before he's even in the league, and I appreciate that.
Well, that's when you really got to worry about the taxes, man. When you're first, getting your first taste of wealth. Truly.
Exactly. The next, it was kind of I admire the benevolent nature of the following reporter. I didn't cut this clip, but the next reporter after that question was answered was like, "Hey, so do you have financial advisors? Like, are you kind of going into this blind?" Like, he was trying to help Carter Bryant, but it also came off like him kind of mansplaining the importance of finances to Carter Bryant, who's like, "I got it, brother. I'm good," in the nicest way possible. And yeah, so he did not work out with the Toronto Raptors, but he does have a lot of respect for the organization. It seems like he's kind of reading the tea leaves and saying they kind of got a lot of guys like me over there. They don't really, have a huge fit or role for me there, but it's a great organization. And no, he did not work out with them. He did work out with 5 teams though. He listed a couple of them. The Spurs, I think, was one of the teams that he listed in there. And a lot of people on the draft streets, on the Twitter streets, have been talking about the Phoenix Suns potentially picking Carter Bryant. Chris Tricks here in the chat says, "Do you guys think Carter will be available before the Suns pick?" I do believe so. Like we were talking about it on yesterday's show, and we felt that in a fantasy world, the highest pick Carter Bryant could be was like in that 6 range.
Yeah.
Right. But and also, Chris, he didn't, because a reporter cut him off. Maybe I'm wrong and misheard it. He actually didn't get to list all 5 teams he worked out for. He started to list them. It was like, I worked out for, I think he said the Trailblazers and the Spurs. And then a reporter asked him about something else, and he stopped his train of thought. And I was like, no, we were getting to the good part. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it is out there in the ether. But I don't know what 5 teams off the top of my head that he did work for. I do feel like he'll be available for the Suns there at 10. We talked about it yesterday, like I was getting to. 6 being the absolute highest, but still kind of being an unrealistic ceiling. It feels like 9, 8 is more of the realistic highest place that Carter Bryant could get selected. How do you feel about that? What do you think the odds are that he will be around for pick 10 in the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, I think he'll probably be on the board, would be my guess. If I had to guess, it does feel like, kind of just looking at some of these props on the board earlier in the day, Kevin, that it feels like that maybe there's a little bit more set in stone in the early portions of this draft. I could, however, see him sneaking his. I mean, I know we talked about the Raptors being a team that could be interesting for Carter Bryant. I think the fact that, yes, he didn't, work out with them, that would somewhat indicate that he's not going to be an option, really. The only time that I feel like you really see that being a case where, like, maybe a guy doesn't work out with a team but ends up getting drafted by that team is when somebody slips, right? Like my mind, obviously my Heat brain goes to Justice Winslow when he slipped to number 10 back in the day, right after Duke won their national championship. And it was like the Heat, I remember, had not worked out Justice Winslow because they anticipated him being like the 5th overall pick. And then when he kept falling, they felt like they had no other choice but to, bite the bullet and draft him. I think that this is, you could be finding a similar situation with Carter Bryant later in this draft, but not necessarily earlier, in my opinion. And that's why that doesn't really make sense for me. So I think you probably cross off 9 as an option for Carter Bryant with the Raptors, because that's his range, and it doesn't seem like that they had all that much interest, right? Looking at some of the other teams that are in front of that, you got the Nets at 8, you got the Pelicans at 7, the Wizards at 6. Those are 3 of the teams that, we discussed yesterday a little bit. It probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Pelicans unless they have a Trey Murphy trade in the works, like they're like about to get off of him.
Should have been the Porzingis trade. Damn.
Oh, Porzingis for Trey Murphy?
Yeah, now I got George and Yang on my basketball team.
I mean, as much as it feels like it sometimes, Kevin, you don't get everything that you want as a Celtics fan.
It feels that way sometimes, especially with trades. But that's neither here nor there. Please continue.
Yeah, I mean, that Celtics trade yesterday, I don't think it was a bad trade.
It was not a bad trade. It really wasn't.
You're trying to get off that money. You don't trust Porzingis to stay healthy.
It's just
at all.
A fan least favorite player that's been brought in. You know what I mean? The Celtics fans don't like him, but I'm sure he'll grow.
Is Porzingis all that likable?
This is the Arizona Wildcats podcast. Let's talk about the NBA draft.
I'm just saying he's got some stuff in his past. It doesn't really.
Yes, no, correct.
He's not squeaky
clean. I'm
clean.
not saying that. I'm saying that George Niang, for basketball reasons, Celtic fans don't have a great memory of him intense rivals he has played for in the past. Is my point there.
But it's all going to be okay when Jaylen Brown ends up traded after tonight. But yeah, Kevin, moving on back to Carter Bryant. It does feel like that now, if you had asked me yesterday, I would have said earlier. Now I'm feeling like 10 might be that ceiling for Carter. And if we're really getting, trying to make it concise, like 10 to 15, I don't see him slipping past the Thunder at 15, 10 to the Phoenix Suns being the highest. And I think, we'll get into it here in a second, but 11th looking the most likely right now with the Portland Trailblazers and just kind of what that roster needs, it feels like.
I was going to say, can I pop in here and say, I'm going to get even more concise. I don't think he makes it past, I'll be conservative and say 13. I was going to say 12, but I don't think he makes it past 13 with the Hawks, right? I understand that, we're pretty much narrowing it down to 3 picks, but we are on draft day, and it feels like there's a lot of intel out there, and we do have a lot more concrete knowledge of which teams need what and which teams are pursuing what. And when like Damon said, when you look at these teams slightly ahead of the Suns, 8, the Nets, we're gonna get into it later, but I think they should take a big there, maybe even a project big to replace a possible Nick Claxton exit, and we're gonna get to that later. Number 9, the Raptors. Already spoke about them as well. They already have wings at Carter Bryant's position that kind of do similar things to what they would ask Carter Bryant to do hypothetically. Then you get interesting at number 10 with the Phoenix Suns, keeping him in Arizona, but not at Arizona, as I like to say. And that is a position where it really depends on what the Suns want to do next season, right? Like, the Ringer projected this. I kind of like this pick as well. Noah Asenge, from that French player that left his team in the championship series to come walk the stage in the draft. I think the Suns could end up falling in love with that kind of a player, a foreign player who has a lot of upside, and he does have the true size that I know people like Flex. I don't know if you saw his tweet. People like Flex on social media are kind of, turning their nose up at Carter Bryant a little bit because of his 6'6" in shoes height, which for some is neither here nor there. But Noah Asenge is that true 6'9", so you do have that as well with him. And he's also a year younger than Carter Bryant, listed as 18 and a half years old. Carter Bryant is listed as 19.6 years old. So I could see the Suns, getting romanticized into picking Carter Bryant and all that. But I think the current direction of the franchise tells me that they're not going to make the pick that all the fans are clamoring for, which would be to keep Carter Bryant home. And then you go to 11. And this is where I think most it's a consensus mock here. I'm not really breaking news. But the Portland Trailblazers, I think that this is a team that you just need versatile defenders. I don't think Drew Holiday is probably staying on that roster for any longer than he absolutely has to. So your timeline isn't exactly close to being, in contention, right, with the guys on that roster currently. I think that Carter Bryant joining that roster makes a lot of sense. The Bulls, him joining Dalen Terry, he would be joining DeAndre Ayton if he went to Portland as well. There are some fun Wildcat ties here with 11 and 12. I think the Bulls are a team that love picking players like Carter Bryant, right? Like super high upside, a little bit of, not really a true project, but a little bit of a development necessary. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not quite turnkey, but not quite fixer-upper. You know what I mean? So I think that is his true range. 10 to 12 are the 3 teams that I'm really highlighting for Carter Bryant right now in the 2025 NBA draft.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very sound reasoning. I guess my thought process was just like, maybe there are some teams, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but there are maybe some teams that are just put off by the usage where he's just really not even on the board for them. Like that's not, they don't mess with prospects that have as low of usage as Carter Bryant. And that's where I think a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder makes sense because they don't have needs. They are one of the deepest teams in the league. They can afford to take a big swing on a, kind of a volatile prospect like Carter Bryant that, there's a world in which maybe it doesn't work out because we haven't seen him put the ball on the floor and we haven't seen him have that high usage, but we have seen him, show spurts of greatness. And that's where I think a team like the Thunder would ideally make a ton of sense for a Carter Bryant. But Kevin, we broke down his game. We got his strengths and his weaknesses. So
may I, if I may, I feel like this would be a good as time as ever to say that. We're talking a lot about mock drafts, Damon, and someone did ask Carter Bryant when the last time he looked at a mock draft was, and he had a pretty funny comment in response to that. So here's what Carter Bryant had to say about people like me and Damon just looking at mock drafts.
Well, I haven't looked at a mock draft in so long. Like, I couldn't tell you where I'm at on majority of mock drafts. So I think for me, understanding, like, Nikola Jokic got drafted during the Taco Bell commercial, and he's the best player in the world. So it's like, I just see myself kind of progressing day by day. And I'm the best players in this league. So that's my only focus, to get better every day.
Yeah. I just felt like it made me laugh hearing him be like, well, Nikola Jokic got drafted in the middle of a Taco Bell commercial, so I don't really care if I go 10, 11, or 12 like Damon and Kevin are sitting here discussing. I just want to get drafted. And additionally, I think it's funny to think that maybe some players are looking at these mock drafts every day to see where they're projected when they're actually getting intel from the teams themselves. You know what I mean? They don't really have a use for mock drafts. You and I have a use for mock drafts because we're not in those rooms. You know what I mean? But like Damon was saying before I cut him off there, we do have his strengths and weaknesses that we're going to break down here. And Damon, shall we go through them really fast here?
Yeah, why don't we? Or actually, you know what, Kevin? Let's not.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
No, I'm just kidding. The strengths here, of course, one of the biggest things that you look at when you see the player of the caliber of Carter Bryant is that he has that 3-and-D ability, right? He obviously, was pretty efficient from 3 this year for Arizona. Shot, let me see, this is great podcasting. Shot 37% from 3 on about 3 attempts per game this year at Arizona. And looked good doing it, right? It wasn't like it was like a fluky 37%. Like his stroke is very consistent. He has good shooting motion. And he, of course, brings that individual defense that I think that is pretty high level. Whether or not his team defense is up to snuff yet, I think is to be determined. And that was obviously a big reason why he wasn't playing all the time, especially early on for Arizona last year. But he has all the tools to be a great defender. And we've seen spurts of elite defensive actions, whether that be blocks. I know that you put in here, Kevin, that he blocked 37 shots here last season, which was the 7th most by a freshman in Arizona history. And, I would venture to guess that most of the 6 in front of him are, in fact, big men. And he is, a little bit more of that wing role. So very impressive. As part of that NBA frame, he's 6'6", as, you mentioned Flex was talking about online last night. Measured in a little bit lower than maybe people anticipated him. I think he's listed at 6'8", but at the same time, that's without shoes. And, I still think that he projects as a bigger wing, if you will. Like his frame is not that of a kind of a smaller guy. He'll still play 4, even with that 6'6" without shoes height measurement at the NBA level, because I think that's just the profile of who he is, right? And you look at like a Ryan Dunn, for example. I saw a lot of people responding to Flex with Ryan Dunn is also 6'6" without shoes, measured at the same thing as at the combine. And, I think most Suns fans would say like he didn't really look small. He still looks like a big wing in the NBA as well. Carter Bryant kind of in that same mold from just a body perspective. Getting back here to the strengths and weaknesses, we of course have mentality. Carter Bryant is we've talked about ad nauseum. He is a great person by all accounts.
Bryant
wants to help the team win. And is locked in on whatever he can do to, help his team reach the next level. It's not like he's not a player that cares more about getting his own shots up, his own personal accolades. He definitely is, someone that wants to play within the system and do it the right way. And I think that's the type of player that you can buy in on.
1,000%. And real quick on his 3-and-D capabilities as well. He's a player that shot over 40% in the last 6 games of the season. And that is in addition to going out there and meditating before every damn game, Damon. His mentality is off the charts, and it's one of the reasons that makes him special, right? I know the quote that's been going around is Tommy Lloyd saying he checks 2 boxes at an elite level: elite character and elite talent, and that's not something that you can get out of every player, right? Like when you look at a guy like Carter Bryant, and they ask him, what is something that you need to improve on going into the an NBA level, and he says everything. And he wasn't saying that because he thinks low of himself. He's saying he went on to explain that he knows how high of a level the NBA is. He knows what it takes. He doesn't know what it takes from experience, but he's putting himself in those shoes, working that putting that work ethic out there for NBA scouts to see that, hey, I understand that you have to come in every day, even 7 a.m. on draft day, get some shots up. Whether it's on social media or not, we know Carter Bryant is getting work in every single day, and that leads into that mentality. But then another tangible thing here that we do have in his strengths and weaknesses, Damon, is his underrated playmaking capabilities, right? Like, shout out to the Carter Bryant Muse on Twitter, Damon. I don't know who this person is, so I cannot neither, confirm nor deny an endorsement for them, but I will say they know ball, right? Because this morning I posted about how Carter Bryant is going to make a lot of people regret not picking him in that range that I was talking about, that 9 to 15 range. I'm not saying that, if you're the Mavericks, you're going to regret not picking Carter Bryant at 1, right? But his underrated playmaking is what really, remember that game we went to at ASU? That's what stood out to me. And I brought up, he had a pass against ASU in transition. Then that's when I knew he had true playmaking upside, because that's not a pass that every player makes or even looks for, is a full court transition pass off of the rebound, right? And so I am very sorry, it totally threw me off. Team Nighthawks. What is this? What is
Brother,
this?
We're discussing college basketball.
We're discussing college basketball and players making it to the NBA that are going to impact winning basketball games. But we appreciate your viewership. Please leave a like. Anyway, even Carter Bryant knows that his passing is the most underrated skill in his toolbox. Here's what Carter Bryant had to say on what is his most slept on skill.
I think my passion. That's something I love to do. Passing is my favorite thing to do on the basketball floor outside of playing defense. So it's something I've always studied and enjoyed doing.
And we go back to, Carter Bryant's evaluation as a high school prospect, people talking about, maybe is he a little bit passive? And I think that Arizona fans somewhat felt that aspect being the case during the season, right? Like you want a little bit more of a killer mentality out of Carter Bryant. And I think that you're going to have to kind of breed that out of him, because his natural tendency is to kind of, I think, defer, and for lack of a better term, like he wants to pass, he wants to play within the team. And yeah, I think at times, like when you look at, maybe a weakness of his, that could be to a fault similarly, but it's also one of his strengths, and it's kind of a give and take in that regard. It's something that he's going to have to work on, knowing when to pass, when to make that pass, and when to put his head down and attack the basket, right? Like, because he does need to add that a little bit of aggressiveness to his game. But certainly the playmaking capability is something that you love to see out of a 6'6" wing, especially a 6'6" wing that doesn't dribble the basketball a lot. It just goes to show that I think he has a little bit more of it to his game if you can teach him how to put the ball on the floor more. Getting back to these strengths and weaknesses, you also have, obviously the athleticism there. We've talked about that. He blocked a ton of shots. His dunks were emphatic. He's not getting beat off the dribble, laterally very often. He's just a very all-around athletic prospect with a great frame. Defensive versatility kind of goes into his ability to play that 4 position. Like, Carter Bryant is a guy that probably can line up from the 2, 3, or 4 spots at the NBA level, and you do a job at a decent to high level at all 3 of those spots. And that gives him the versatility to probably defend those positions, plus even potentially some point guards that maybe are not as fast off the dribble. Like, I don't expect him to maybe be able to keep up with like a Ja Morant, if you will, Kevin, but I do think that there are maybe some less explosive point guards that he could stay in front of and provide some issues for, given his added length that they're not used to seeing at that position.
Yeah, 1,000%. And, as we were looking back at those strengths and weaknesses, I really feel like those last, 5 strengths and weaknesses all kind of can be rolled into one: athleticism, defensive versatility, length, off-ball movement and defense, and shot blocking. I think all of that is what truly cements him as a very high-level 3-and-D prospect in the NBA, where true 3-and-D prospects are kind of hard to come by. You have players that end up as 3-and-D prospects sometime in their career, but it's hard to find a guy coming out of college, especially as a freshman, that is, hey, I'm going to come in, spot up threes, play good defense to the best of my ability, utilize my athleticism, because his shot blocking was emphatic as well. I know you remember the shot block that had you thinking of D-Will this past season as well against, Washington, that iconic block. Carter Bryant's block looked a whole hell of a lot like that. he's an NBA level athlete with an NBA frame and an NBA skill set, right? And I think that when you look at his strengths, it is a super high ceiling and honestly a pretty high floor too. In terms of the grand scheme of things, he is going to be a rotational NBA player for multiple years, as long as he continues to work as hard as he has been working for the last, 19 and a half years of his life. But I do think that while Carter Bryant is an incredibly great prospect, we should look at some of the things that make him maybe, have some holes in his game, right? The extremely low usage rate that we've alluded to so far in this podcast, you could argue, I think, both ways for this. You could argue it's a strength of his because you don't truly know what he could do. The true potential, you might be buying low on Carter Bryant without even knowing it. But I think in terms of draft evaluation, you just don't have enough film on Carter Bryant to truly know who he is from his true potential standpoint, right? And, I know a lot of fans look at the counting stats of 6.5 points and, not a lot of games where the box score jumps off the screen at you. But the talent is there, and I think the extremely low usage rate, it does count as a weakness, and it's one of the reasons why he's not any higher than he is in these mock drafts, right? And then the next one I want to talk about is high foul rate. He's great on defense. We just talked about how amazing he is on defense, but part of the problem with having a kid that is so raw on that end is he gets into a lot of fouls. He fouls pretty much at the rate of a big man, even though he guards out on the perimeter as well. So that is going to have to be cleaned up as he makes it to the league. And then before we break all these down, I'll just read off the last two. Shot creation is a big weakness in his game. You don't see Carter Bryant create a lot of buckets in the ISO. You don't see Carter Bryant have a lot of off-the-dribble baskets, even though he's capable of a little dribble pull-up in the mid-range. It's not, at the top of his bag. And then leading into that is ball handling. Not a very reliable on-ball facilitator. Carter Bryant is more of a connector than a facilitator.
Absolutely. Obviously that usage rate, I think, is a lot of that goes into the usage rate as well. Those strengths and weaknesses, right? Like when you're not playing as much, you're not going to be asked to put the ball on the floor and really, be the driver of an offense, if you will. But also, it's also going to allow you to be a little bit more aggressive on the defensive end because you're not playing an extreme amount of minutes. Like you can be a little bit more aggressive. You can get in a little bit more foul trouble because you're unlikely to actually foul out when you're only playing 20 minutes a game. But yeah, I mean, he definitely needs to add more to his bag from an offensive standpoint. But it's all stuff that we feel that he has room for growth in, and a lot of room for growth in. Just kind of, I know we've talked about the usage rate a lot. Here I found a stat here on Twitter, x.com. NBA Cody 12 at NBA Cody 12. He grabbed a sample of the players, freshmen since 2008, that had a usage rate of less than 16, meaning they scored or assisted, or I believe it's actually shot or passed maybe, on the percentage of shots taken on the offensive end. So usage rate less than 16%, but we're very productive with a box plus minus of at least 7.5. Pretty decent company here, Kevin. These are the 5 players that qualify among that amount. Leading the way, you had Tyrese Halliburton at the top. You have Tyler Ulis right underneath him. Tyler Ulis, if you don't remember, was there's a lot of Suns fans here in the chat, so they remember Tyler Ulis. But Tyler Ulis, Kentucky guard, played on that extremely talented Kentucky team with Devin Booker and Karl Anthony Towns and all the boys. And I believe he came off the bench. That's part of the reason why he had that low usage. Also 5'9", so a little bit like you kind of got to take it with a slight grain of salt because he just didn't really have the size to play in the NBA at the end of the day. But you look at these other players, Derek Lively coming in at number 3, Mikal Bridges at number 4, and Carter Bryant at number 5. I mean, other than Tyler Ulis, who was somewhat athletically had a ceiling put on him, right? Because a 5'9" guard can pretty much only be so good at the NBA level. Those other 3 players, Kevin, Tyrese Halliburton, Derek Lively, Mikal Bridges, that's a good class of players to be associated with from a low usage but extremely efficient and productive in that usage standpoint.
Fire me up, Damon.
Yeah.
With the stats, I love it. That was actually wonderful. And that really is an impressive class to be in. And I think it shows that counting stats are not everything, right? You have a player that is, even in short spurts, clearly showing the impact that he can make to winning basketball games, whether it be with his defense, his spot up shooting, his athleticism, his transition defense, all of that. I think that Carter Bryant, that stat is illustrative of how we are correct when we predict that Carter Bryant is going to be an NBA veteran and play in this league for quite a long time if he remains healthy and remains committed to the game, because you don't find prospects like Carter Bryant. I'm not saying like he's like a franchise player. That's not what I'm saying. But you don't find these complimentary guys that have the mindset of a complimentary guy coming out of college. You don't find a lot. You find a lot of guys that, like I said earlier, like I alluded to, end up having to play a 3-and-D role, but that was never the dream. That was never the dream, to come into the league and play the 3-and-D role.
Yeah.
It feels like that's, I know I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but it feels like that's Carter Bryant's dream. To make it to the NBA at a high level, to work his ass off to be the best he can be. His pinned tweet, obviously, is I'm going to be the best basketball player in the world someday. But I think he thinks if he has to play 3-and-D basketball to be that, he will do that. And I think that is a very rare mentality to have, as like you said, like we alluded to earlier. But I think that stat is illustrative of the mentality piece, that the intangible bit that we've been talking about there.
Yeah, and also when just looking into these stats a little bit deeper, he had an extremely high defensive rebounding percentage. He actually tied the defensive rebounding percentage of Derek Lively when he was at Duke for his freshman season. Wow. Derek Lively being 6'11" center lottery pick, and now kind of showing out for the Dallas Mavericks. Really good NBA player. But that's pretty impressive.
It is.
Rebounding ability from a 6'6" guy. The ability to get up and be that strong of a rebounder. I will say, though, that his turnover percentage is way too high, especially for his low usage. Having a turnover percentage here of 18.5%, with the lack of reps he's getting with the ball in his hands. I mean, I think that goes to show why he's not doing more of it, and that goes to show why he has negative aspects to his game. Because if he was some perfect prospect, he'd be top 5, he'd be top 3, right? Like he would. If Carter Bryant was 6'6", shot the 3 well, was the primary ball handler every time he stepped out onto the floor, elite defender, he'd be going higher, and we wouldn't be talking about him as a late lottery pick. So that's definitely something he's going to need to clean up, is being not only getting more reps with the ball in his hands, but also just being cleaner with the ball in his hands, because that's just that's far too many turnovers for a guy that is kind of barely ever really putting the ball on the floor like that.
No, yeah, I agree with you. We talked about his foul rate as well earlier. There are some negative stats that are attached to Carter Bryant. And when we're talking about things that are going to keep Carter Bryant in the league for a long time, we're not the only ones that know that. Carter Bryant also knows that. They asked him what he thinks about his game will translate first and foremost to the NBA, and this is what he had to say on that topic.
I think for me, I would say I feel being able to defend multiple positions along with being able to shoot the basketball. I think that's two things that the NBA is for, no matter if you're an 18th year player or if you're in your first year playing basketball at that level. So I think those are two things that translate immediately.
Yeah, like I said, Carter Bryant is a player that knows exactly what's going to get him into the league and keep him in the league for as long as he wants to be there. And also, he could not have gone to a better place to prepare him for that than Arizona, right? Like, it's not just me, the Wildcat, and me saying it. It's not just Damon, the Wildcat, and Tucsonen and him saying that. It's the objective truth, right? And I shouldn't, speak on Carter Bryant's behalf. I should just let Carter Bryant speak on what the University of Arizona meant to him and how that's prepared him for not only basketball, but for life in general.
They did a lot. I mean, from just being brutally honest with me to building me up to everything that you can possibly do as a basketball coach. I think Arizona is such a unique program because they get the best out of the players, and they're players programs. They're not like a lot of schools kind of go, and a lot of coaches are wired. I'm trying to keep my job. I mean, Coach Lloyd and the rest of the staff, Coach Murphy, Brown, Kaz, PK, everybody on the coaching staff, and everybody whether that's people in the media team, editors, and whoever the case may be, it's just great people up and down. So I think the biggest thing they taught me is just how to be a man. That's how to be respected and kind of grow as a man before anything.
You heard that? Player program? I like to hear it.
A players program.
Yeah, true. Players program. I love to hear it. And Damon and I are going to break more of that interview with Carter Bryant from Media Day down after this quick break on the AZ Wildcats podcast. So don't go anywhere. You see it. You see it on Damon's head. It's a Branded Bills hat. Is there a more stylish hat in the game? The answer is no, because Branded Bills has you covered with the most stylish headwear from head to toe in the game. If you need truckers, fitteds, beanies, dad hats, what else? Snapbacks, and anyway, Branded Bills is the place
All-time
to go because they're a Mesa company right here in Arizona is where they were founded. And not only do they love beautiful headwear, they also love supporting the brands that you love most. It's the best way to elevate your brand is with Branded Bills. They got that wonderful Arizona campus collection. You can go to the Arizona School Store, cop you some exclusive designs that you cannot get anywhere else. They're constantly dropping new stuff. So if you're looking for some gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd, Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear. They have partnerships with us over at Arizona, and they also do charity work with ASU. And you know, like I said, it's a local company. So head over to brandedbills.com, use promo code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. That's code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order of Branded Bills.
Branded Bills, we love it. Another company that we are falling in love with here. It is a all new concept, and it is called VMe. VMe is a person-to-person betting app. It is the first of its kind. It is a brand new concept, as I already said, and it is purposefully made to bet anyone, anything, anytime. It's really that simple. If I had used VMe when Kevin and I made our March Madness upset bet, maybe Kevin would have actually paid up his end of the bet, because this sneaky guy has just decided that he will maybe never get that heart shaved into his head. That's where VMe comes in. VMe would have made sure that Kevin paid up on his end of the bet because it puts it there, puts it in front of the world. And, you know, you can even get a judge, an arbiter, if you will, to get in the middle and be that somewhat independent decider of what's going on in the bet. You can put your money in there. Say you're betting your friends and you want to put some cash on who can chug a beer the fastest, who can win in Madden, when playing a game on a Friday night. This is the best place to do it. It puts the money in the app. It holds on to it until someone wins, and then it pays it out. No more trying to get your scumbag friend to, pay you your money back on the bet that he owed you.
Who's the scumbag friend in this situation?
That guy sitting right over there. But yeah, all new concept. We're thrilled to be partnering with VMe. Please download the app, try it out for yourself. Use our promo code PHNX and play today. Available on the App Store and Google Play. VMe, anyone, anything, anytime.
Love VMe. You and I should try to impromptu get some VMe going after this and related to the NBA
draft.
Yeah,
why not? If you guys want to hop in on our VMe bets, because you can get in on it as well. If you're watching the show, use that promo code PHNX, sign up for VMe. And Kevin and I, right after the show, we'll get some NBA draft stuff going on the VMe app. Lots of fun.
Damon and I will have to find a prospect that we disagree on and be like, no, I think he's going to go top 15. You think you're crazy. And that's
God, you're an idiot.
Yeah, that's why VMe is dope, because you can litigate stuff like that, little everyday stuff like that.
Maybe Caleb Love.
Oh, yeah. I think we're probably on the same page with that. Should we just talk about Caleb Love a little bit? A little Caleb Love intermission here?
First, before we do Caleb Love, I want you to scroll up and find a comment. Someone was here in the chat was asking about Ryan Dunn versus Carter Bryant. I didn't know if you had any thoughts, Kevin, on Ryan Dunn versus Carter Bryant. Yeah, Ziki Fukato here in the chat, Fukato, said Ryan Dunn or Carter Bryant. Thoughts, Kevin?
I would ask, like, in terms of what? Like, you know what I mean? Like for the Suns lineup, like, you know what I mean? I think Ryan Dunn's gonna be a more impactful player next year than Carter Bryant. I don't think that's a hot take.
Well, then I think that the Suns shouldn't draft Carter Bryant then.
Yeah, no, I mean that's been.
If you think Ryan Dunn is a better player than Carter Bryant, you shouldn't draft Carter Bryant at 10
next year. I think he is. I think Ryan Dunn's a better defender right now than Carter Bryant is.
Yes, but Carter's a better offensive player by hopefully leaps and bounds than
that's true.
Ryan
and he's
Dunn
not going to be asked to do the ball handling stuff as well. That's a good point. It's a decent question out of Zeke here. This is a decent one. I think
Ryan Dunn's first season in the NBA, he averaged 7 points, 3.5 boards, less than 1 assist per game, 43% shooting, 31% from three, and obviously a very good defender, but wasn't necessarily I know people had some issues with his, maybe similar to what we talked about with Carter, by getting in and working into the team defense. obviously individually, and when he's, when you look at him in a one-on-one ISO situation, he's very good. But kind of just getting into the team system a little bit more as well.
Give me Carter Bryant, because I do think he'll be a more efficient player next year than Ryan Dunn was in his rookie year. And I also think the upside is ultimately higher than it is with Ryan Dunn, who I think, while an incredible defender, his offensive game leaves some to be desired. So after further review on the play, ruling on the field, give me Carter Bryant.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at as well. I think Carter Bryant, just offensively, his ceiling is so much higher than Ryan Dunn's. Like, Ryan Dunn's offensive stats at Virginia were pretty putrid and pretty awful to look at. Granted, he was playing at Virginia, and everybody's offensive stats at Virginia look putrid, but Carter Bryant carved out a role for himself and did a very efficient job at doing so. I will say, though, that I agree completely with Frank K's comment here. Nothing wrong with taking Carter Bryant, even if you have Ryan Dunn and like him being on your team. Like, this is the modern NBA, and having wings that can do multiple things, that can defend multiple positions on the floor at the same time is, I would argue, ideal. And I don't think that there's anything really from having Ryan Dunn's standpoint precluding you from taking a Carter Bryant. Maybe would you like to see a little bit more contrast in their ability to put the ball on the floor, considering they're probably going to be playing a lot of each other's minutes, right? Like, one's going to go off the floor and then you'll bring the other one on, and maybe you want to see slightly different profiles when that happens. I do think, though, that if you believe in Carter Bryant, having Ryan Dunn does not preclude you in any stretch from making that pick of Carter Bryant, because Ryan Dunn was a late first-round pick. Like, you can't be – I don't think you change the organization's trajectory based off of, buying in on a guy who had averaged 7 points per game on fairly inefficient shooting last year, as much as I actually like Ryan Dunn as a player and as a prospect.
I agree with you. I mean, we talked about that in the lead up to, all this Carter Bryant pre-draft, evaluation stuff, is that if Carter Bryant was to be slotted anywhere outside the lottery on a consensus basis, then he should come back to Arizona, because like Damon just said, when things get down to it, the organization is not going to bend just because for Carter Bryant, who went 21st overall. You know what I mean? But if Carter Bryant needs, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, if he got picked 10th overall, the organization is a lot more willing to look at what Carter Bryant needs to keep him on the team and keep him successful, because you spent a lottery pick on that player. So, yeah, I agree with you, Damon. And I think, like Frank said in the comments, and like others have alluded to, you do need all the elite defending wings you can get. But I think in a vacuum, if we are just to say Ryan Dunn or Carter Bryant, like just in a vacuum, I think I ultimately do take Carter Bryant there. An interesting comment here, real quick. I know it's not the Suns pod, but it pretty much affects Carter Bryant.
No, I wanted to bring this up next, actually, as well.
Because if Kaman Maluach does fall outside the top 9, the Suns should run to the podium and take Kaman Maluach, which would pretty much cement Carter Bryant as a Trailblazer, I would assume, at that point, considering the consensus mock situation we have here.
But I will say, it's what Crypto Tank says right underneath that as well. Like, the Suns need size in this draft. They have 0 quality bigs other than Nick Richards, and that quality is doing a lot of stretching on that one. Who is just
that was the big trade of last season. Would you? Hey,
all I will say is that I obviously, from a size standpoint, like Carter Bryant's 6'6" without shoes, you're not looking at that and being like, wow, that's conventional size. But I do think that he is a bigger wing that can size up and play that 4 position, and should be able to long term in his career. So that's where I think that you could say that. I mean, that's more size than picking a guard for the Suns, which they could maybe use a point guard, but they definitely don't need a shooting guard. So yeah, I think a center is ideal, but you also have to be smart about using your draft pick properly. This is the 10th overall pick. This is not a situation where, you're just like, oh yeah, we like this guy. It's like, no, the value of whoever you're picking here matters a ton. And you don't always have lottery picks. You want to make sure you hit on them when you do. I think Maluach is the guy from a center standpoint, Kevin.
Yes.
Like yes. For sure.
Yes.
No doubt I'm taking Maluach over Carter Bryant if I'm the Suns in that spot and both are on the board. That being said, what other bigs are we talking here that are, that you're valuing over Carter Bryant? Like, I
mean, we're talking Kalkbrenner ball in the chat. We're talking Ryan Kalkbrenner in the chat.
With the late second for sure.
Yeah. It's not exactly And like we alluded to earlier, it's a deep draft from the standpoint of a lot of guys in this draft are going to play for a long time, likely in the NBA, right? But it's a very, very light draft from a like franchise cornerstone perspective, right? At least from the outside looking in. You have your couple guys that could become that for a certain number of teams, but in general, once you get out of the top, whatever you want to call it, top 5, top 6, whatever, you are looking for fit in combination with quality. And Maluach, like I was alluding to in the chat, started playing basketball less than a decade ago, and he is an incredibly instinctually intuitive rim protector. And I think that his athleticism combined with the rim protection instincts, combined with the fact that he's raw, but also possesses enough skill and talent to help Duke have the season that they had last year.
Yeah.
I'm extremely high on Kaman Maluach, and I do think he deserves to be a top 10 pick. But if he goes 10 to the Suns, if he's there at 10 for the Suns, like you said, don't walk, don't run, don't sprint, drive whatever kind of motor vehicle you need to the podium to get there as fast as possible. Steal Derek's scooter and drive to the podium to get there even faster if you need to. Because, like you said, Kaman Maluach is the guy for the Suns if he's there, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that in my opinion as well. I think we're both on the same page there. One player that I saw that, like, we're talking about Flex, for example, and his thoughts on
shout out
Carter Bryant and what he said just about how his measuring in lower than, what his measurement was listed at prior was an issue for him. You have a guy, I saw that Flex was interested in Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina, who also, like, he was a sophomore. He's a little bit older than Carter Bryant, but he measured in undersized as well. He's a 6'7" power forward. Like, that's obviously a pretty small power forward, especially for the NBA level. You worry about that a little bit. You have a guy in Derek Queen. Could that make sense? Like, is Derek Queen a more apt pick for the Suns than a Carter Bryant because of their need at center? I could see that argument. I see people here in the chat saying Danny Wolf. I like Danny Wolf. I think his game is super fun to watch. I don't know if that's a 10th overall pick guy, though. I think that if you could get him with the later pick, which he probably has gone by then, so you might have to trade up from that later pick or trade down from this 10th pick if you really like him. I just don't think the value's there at 10. But if I'm the Suns, I'm looking at, because I'm assuming Maluach's not on the board, Kevin, I'm looking at either Carter Bryant or Derek Queen probably, and I'm deciding between those two players. And if I believe in Derek Queen's ability to, kind of be that offensive engine that he was at Maryland, like, he's a great passer for a center. He is undersized for a center at 6'9", but I do think his playmaking ability allows him to play a little bit smaller than that. I could see a world where maybe you're picking Derek Queen and the upside there over a Carter Bryant's upside.
I do agree with you, Damon, and I was thinking to myself how trades could possibly affect all of this, right? And I do have, before we get to our final break here today, I do have a quick conspiracy theory for you that I'd like to run by. I don't think you're gonna like it, but remember when I had Will Gottlieb on the show? And shout out to Will Gottlieb. Check out the ALLCITY Draft Guide and Derek Bodner. They're doing great stuff over there. And correct, Sparrow, this is not Eric and Steven, despite some of the maybe tonal similarities on the screen right now.
Wow.
What? I'm just talking about.
Who am I?
Steven, obviously, duh.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I was saying, check out the draft guide and everything. I'm hearing rumblings on my Celtics streets that a trade into the top 10 utilizing Anthony Simons might be in the cards. Now,
the Suns do love shooting guards.
They do.
That's something to monitor there.
They do.
Could they use another in Anthony Simons?
And if they do, I remember when Carter Bryant said Jason Tatum was one of his favorite players? Remember when he said that he might want to be like a Jason Tatum one day and that he had that in his bag?
You're nasty, man.
Carter Bryant to the Celtics. Carter the Celtic Bryant. It would give me an excuse to talk Celtics ball on this podcast at least once a week during the NBA season. So I'm all about it. Please, by all means, get into the Carter Bryant game if you're the Celtics. And on that note, while Damon, his head internally explodes at that comment.
Well, you started talking Celtics, then I started thinking about the Heat, and now I got Walter Clayton pulled up on my Google search because it feels like that's a lock right now for some reason. And so I'm just looking at Walter Clayton, just being like, is he him? Is he the guy?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Which he very clearly is.
Well, while Damon looks all his Walter Clayton Jr. highlights up, we'll be right back on our final break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. And if Carter Bryant is selected in the lottery tonight, I think when I go home after a lot of content work, I will be partaking in some Pure Edibles. And Pure Edibles was founded in Arizona, another local company, and is available in, get ready, 130 dispensaries statewide. Didn't even know there was that many dispensaries in the state, but 130 dispensaries statewide. Pretty much if there's a dispensary, you can find Pure Edibles in it. Pure gummies are not covered in sugar like all their competitors. It's a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks, which is pretty much like a Starburst kind of a vibe, chews, soft candies if you're into that, like caramel, caramel, whatever you want to call it. And they also offer hard candies as well. Pure effects are clearly listed on the canister, so each tin tells you exactly what you are going to experience after consumption. And they also offer gummies for sleep support as well as candies for uplifting effects derived with unique cannabinoids such as CBN, CBG, CBD, and with marijuana-derived THC. It was created in Flagstaff, Arizona at Noble Herb Dispensary, the home of Pure Edibles, and is now made in Phoenix, Arizona. Go find yourself some Pure Edible products from over 130 dispensaries across the state of Arizona.
Pure Edibles, unbelievable stuff going on over there. We love to support local regarding our friends at Pure Edibles. We also love our friends at Shady Rays. So I always tell the story of when I was in Hawaii and I lost my sunglasses, how I wish I had some Shady Rays. Funny enough, Johnny Venerable, who happens to be in Hawaii right now, last time he was there, which was last off season, he did lose his sunglasses in Hawaii. Boy. They were Shady Rays. Came off, wave hit him in the face, carried him on out into the ocean. Some mermaid got a free pair of polarized, beautiful, pristine Shady Rays sunglasses that don't wear down from being in the water like that because they are premium shades. But guess what Johnny did? He just hit up their lost and broken replacement policy through their support team, sent him a brand new pair in the mail. He got it in a week and a half. He had a brand new pair of sunglasses because that purchase holds strong forever. It is a lifetime warranty, and there is no deal like it out there in eyewear. So for Shady Rays, they got all the different types of styles, premium polarized sunglasses, and for not a premium price. It's the eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com, use promo code PHNX for 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses, and try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Go get you some Shady Rays for sure. I miss my Shady Rays. I left mine in my car, which is now in the shop, and I was about
to say, you miss your Shady Rays. Why don't you just head up their Lost and Burger replacement policy? Best in the business.
Yeah, I
will.
But
you didn't lose them.
I didn't. So, and they're not broken, I hope.
But if they were,
it'd be no problem.
No problem at all.
Should we get into our best bets?
We should here in a second, but I do want to just shout out the chat, everybody here in the chat. We got some new faces. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We're going to be doing draft coverage all day long on this channel. PHNX Suns is going to have you locked and loaded. We're giving you a little bit of an appetizer, though, in regards to NBA draft conversation. So appreciate everybody for being here. Drop a like on this video. Helps us out so much. My guy Kevin doesn't get good rest, doesn't get good sleep, and he's got a vacation on the works, which he'd love to be well rested for. Doesn't get to do so unless he gets a certain number of likes on this podcast. I'm thinking 50. I'm thinking
That's
50 is a very
number.
Attainable goal for us on this podcast as we talk a little bit more draft. But yeah, as we scroll up here in the chat, just want to highlight some of these comments that maybe we're getting thrown down. Beal at 10. Or Beal, number 10, number 29 to the Sixers for Paul George and number 3. Would you do that if you were the Suns, Kevin? Paul George has an extra year in his contract than Bradley Beal. Both of them are being paid max money. And so you would have an extra year of paying someone $50+ million. You gain the number 3 pick in the process, and you get rid of the Bradley Beal experience.
Man. So it's either Bradley Beal or Paul George on my basketball team? Is what you're saying? Well, not mine, but the basketball team.
I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I guess I would too. Because you get 3.
I just think
you get 3, right?
Paul George fits this team so much better than Bradley Beal does. I think that there's more there. Even if he had a really bad season this past season, I think that there's just I could see a world in which Paul George revitalizes his career a little bit more than Bradley Beal at this point. I would absolutely do that. And then it gives you the opportunity to take like VJ Edgecombe or Maluach if you want to trade up and get him that high. But yeah, I would personally take VJ Edgecombe, even though, again, shooting guard, not necessarily the biggest need on the agenda for the Phoenix Suns. But I think when you have a number 3 pick, you just go BPA. You don't who cares about position of need? That's what gets you DeAndre Ayton over Luka Doncic in a draft, right? Because you have Devin Booker on the team already, and you're sitting there and you're like, well, we don't need a shooting guard. And then
Jalen Smith over Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah. Well, they did need a point guard. That was the problem with that one.
I know. Sometimes even when you do it right, you do it wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of those Rutgers boys fallen, according to Frank. I would say it's definitely going to be
pretty clear.
Your boy Arius Bailey, Kevin, as we came to learn earlier today.
Yeah, Ace Bailey, aka Arius Bailey, as known on his government birth certificate. So, yeah, I think that's just as cool of a name as Ace. Damon felt otherwise. I thought
Ace
Arius
is just a way cooler athlete name, man.
They're in the same tier for me.
No.
Ace and Arius, man. Anyway, point being, if you are looking to bet on one of the Rutgers guys going down in the draft, it would be Arius Ace Bailey. But Damon and I put together some of our best bets today for all of you. And Damon, should we go through yours first?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go ahead and go first. Appreciate the kindness there, my brother. But yeah, NBA draft props. These are mine that I'm going with today. I picked 3 for the people at home. If one of these first 2 cashes, we will in fact be making money on the day. I got Damon Maluach to go 8th overall to the Brooklyn Nets. You discussed it a little bit, Kevin. Nick Claxton seemingly on the trade block. Could he potentially be a Phoenix Sun? That would be something that I know a lot of Suns fans would love to see. But I just think that they need a long-term solution. Well, really at every spot. They're the Brooklyn Nets. But I think if you're looking at 8th overall, there's a really good chance that Maluach is just the best player on the board there at 8th overall. I think in looking at the odds, you probably assume that you're going to have Cooper Flagg gone, VJ Edgecombe, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, and Jeremiah Fears as probably the 6 picks before that. Could Maluach make it to 7? I think that is where his projected pick is, but I have him going 1 spot later. Plus 500 at number 8. Going into the Carter Bryant discussion that we were having earlier in the show, I think plus 500 to the Trailblazers is criminal, Kevin.
Juicy.
I have no idea what that is about. That seems to be the consensus pick for Carter Bryant right now. I do think the Suns probably go in a different direction than Carter Bryant. So that's why maybe a little bit more of a pro-ready player, as our guy Espo talked about, GM Espo talked about on Southwest Bias this morning in regards to the Suns' 10th overall pick. They need a contributor right away. Is Carter Bryant just a little bit too much of a slow cooker type of prospect that you want to maybe go in a different direction there? If you're Phoenix, I think so. I think that's why he ends up a Trailblazer at 11. And the Trailblazers just need that profile right now. They have a ton of guards. They have a ton of centers. They don't have wings. And that's where it makes a ton of sense to bring in a guy like Carter Bryant, especially for a team that is in the process of a big-time rebuild. This is not a retool situation like maybe the Phoenix Suns are looking to do. This is a rebuild, and I think plus 500 is criminal. So hop on with our friends at Bet365. Get in with me and Kevin on that because, spoiler alert, Kevin likes that one too. But getting into my last pick, this one was just fun, and the reason I did it was to be fun, Kevin.
Yeah.
Jace Richardson under pick 24.5 at plus 105, still getting some plus money on that. I think he goes lower than that, and here's why.
Why?
The Phoenix Suns are picking 10th. This guy went to Michigan State. Could it be any simpler?
Oh man. Do you know how fast like Eric, Gerald, and Steven's heads would simultaneously explode if that was the case?
God. You mean fist pumping?
Well, I think Steven also wants to win basketball games at the NBA level.
As his Michigan State.
Yeah.
Steven moved out here and brought all the Michigan State with him.
He really did. Maybe this is Steven's fault. We should litigate that later. Yeah, I think he'll be in today. But no, yeah, I love your bets, Damon. I really do. You know I love them as well because we are aligned, especially on the Damon Maluach side of things. I am a huge believer in him going to the Nets. That feels like such a Nets pick, especially if the Nick Claxton move, whether it be the Suns or otherwise, is coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
Then Damon Maluach feels like the perfect, like, hey, we're not going to contend next year, but in a couple years, Damon Maluach could be your starting center on a contending team potentially. That's like his ceiling, right? So very excited about him as a prospect. Also a very low floor with those kind of players, but If you're Brooklyn, I think you take a chance.
I think low floor in the sense of what we use a top 10 pick on, but I also think that Maluach is athletic enough and skilled enough, a combination of the two, where he's going to be a serviceable NBA player for 10 years. Like, no doubt in my mind, whether or not that's as a more rotation piece rather than maybe a frontline star is a totally different conversation, but it's hard to teach that level of skill and athleticism and size, the combo of all of that. And that's why I think, like, I mean, you look at like a guy like Emeka Okafor, how long did he play in the NBA? For just being tall. You know what I mean? A million bajillion years. Like that, he might be the longest tenured NBA player of all time.
He played 10 years in the NBA. 5 for Charlotte, 4 for the Hornets, and Washington. So he played for Charlotte and then New Orleans in the 2009 transfer over. Did not play due to injury for 4 straight years. Wow. So it could easily be like a 14, 15, maybe even longer NBA career, if not due to injury. That's a rookie of the year, Damon. A defensive player of the year. 2-time. Come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's a player that even if the perceived floor that you're talking about is maybe very like it could be very hit or miss. I still think that the miss, if you will still be a valuable or I guess productive NBA player for quite a while. But what did you think about my Jace Richardson pick? I know that I was being tongue in cheek when I was talking about the Suns there, but also I like that. I kind of like those odds. Less than 24, like that's almost the entire first round at that point.
Yeah, no, I actually loved that. I was surprised you were getting plus 105, I believe it was on that. And yeah, I loved all 3 of your picks. Like I said, super aligned on Carter Bryant. To steal a Suns term, super aligned on Maluach.
Crypto Tank, we grab our pitchfork and our torches and we go riot down at PHNX Arena if they take Jace Richardson at 10. I'll be right there with you.
Oh man,
standing in solidarity.
Send them back to East Lansing, Michigan. Is that where that is at?
Yes.
Yeah, send them back there. Should I get into my best bets here?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do that right now here as I get into my best bets on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Trey Johnson, 7th pick. At plus 500, I was kind of surprised at Trey Johnson being there at plus 500 for the number 7 overall pick, mostly because I feel like you're seeing Ace Bailey say that, he's pretty much trying to pick his team at this point, and the Wizards are one of those teams that he, for some reason, is open to going to. And I feel like if you're the Wizards and if Ace Bailey does fall to you, I know there's a little bit of a question of what kind of mindset he has right now, but like Damon was saying earlier, you kind of have to just go BPA on that one. And I think that if he falls to 6, that makes the Wizards, it kind of forces their hand and they have to pick Ace Bailey, meaning the Pelicans, who are slated to pick a guard there in Jeremiah Fears anyway, according to multiple mock drafts. I think you pick Trey Johnson over Jeremiah Fears in that case. So that's kind of my logic, getting the Trey Johnson at 7th at plus 500, and then Noah Esenge at 10th pick at plus 800. That would be to the Suns. And like I alluded to earlier, I could totally see the Suns kind of falling in love with a foreign player who had success overseas and has a slightly more NBA ready, height frame situation than like a Carter Bryant does. And that would also mean that Carter Bryant is likely to go to the next pick of number 11 at the Portland Trailblazers, Damon. So those are my 3. Trey Johnson at 7, plus 500. Noah Esenge at 10, plus 800. And Carter, our sweet Zen baby boy Bryant, at plus 500 at number 11.
I could definitely see a world in which Trey Johnson, well, I guess I was going to say where Jeremiah Fears isn't even on the board at the 7th overall pick.
Yeah.
Where with Ace Bailey also not on the board, right? Like those guys could go 5-6, and then Trey Johnson is just automatically the best player available, and that plus 500 number is looking pretty solid there, Kevin. So totally with that one. Don't know enough about Esenge. I will say that I do feel like the Suns are maybe not going to go international guy because they're so locked in on being like, we're going to compete this year, which whether or not you find that realistic or not is a different discussion. But I just think that leads you to maybe refrain from taking an international player just because they seemingly are just so hit or miss as prospects a lot of the time, especially early on. Like there are times where you just don't even play a guy for an entire season. But yeah, I think the Suns maybe want a little bit more of a guy that they feel like has a higher floor. And Asenge also shot, I was looking at his 3-point numbers, below 30%. That's very Ryan Dunn. And that's where people in the chat who are talking about, like, is Carter Bryant too much like Ryan Dunn? I think that's Noah Asenge might be a little bit too much like Ryan Dunn in that regard. Big wing, athletic wing that you're trying to invest a lot into, but that, obviously is just not really a shooter. And you're just hopefully projecting totally that he's going to gain that shooting aspect to his game. I guess he's a little bit more of a power forward than a small forward, but I think that athletic wings, and as much as I know Carter's came in lower at his height measurement, Kevin, I still think power forward is, like, especially in the playoffs, like, that's what he'll be playing, the 4 spot, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, especially once he frames out a little bit more.
Exactly. There's a high % chance that he does fill out over the course of the years, and he could end up. I mean, I know I'm not the first person to say this either, but he could end up in more of an Aaron Gordon role of being like a slightly undersized but very well disciplined on the defensive end and good positionally and strong enough to, not get overpowered by some of the players that he'd be going up against in those small ball lineups. I could see that ultimately for Carter Bryant. I don't know if he gets there sooner rather than later, but I definitely see that as his ultimate point of development, I guess, in the NBA, is getting there as soon as possible, Damon. And, before we wrap up on the Carter Bryant side of things, I wanted to bring up Leo's comment here that says Carter Bryant, Dillon Brooks, and Ryan Dunn would be amazing. For whether you like Dillon Brooks or not, I'm not sure if there is a better, within reason, defensive kind of dog for Carter Bryant to, like, learn under. Right.
Yeah.
I feel like Dillon Brooks would be an incredible player for Carter Bryant to learn under because they are so, like, different from a mentality standpoint. And you alluded to this earlier, like, you're going to have to bring that dog out of Carter Bryant, right? He has it in there. Like, we're not saying that Carter Bryant's soft or whatever, but what we are saying is that his first instinct is to not go at someone's throat, outwardly, right? Dillon Brooks, he is that guy. And I think that his defensive discipline on that end, his defensive principles, helping Carter Bryant develop that's on that side of the court, helping him become a more aggressive defender, a more aggressive offensive player as well. I think that'd be a nice little matchup there for Carter Bryant from a mentorship perspective, ironically enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I totally agree with you on that one. Doing a little bit more research on Noah Asenge, he kind of pulled a Walter Clayton. I don't know. Did we talk about this on air where Walter Clayton, they asked him if 3 people he would want to have lunch with? And he goes, Kevin, I'll be Walter Clayton in this circumstance. You ask me who I'd want to have lunch with.
Hi, I'm here with Walter Clayton. How are you doing on this draft process? Good day to you. If you could have dinner with anybody.
Eric Spoelstra.
Eric
Spoelstra and
No, do you want to give me a chance to just
definitely Eric Spoelstra though.
Okay. So we have Eric
Spoelstra, Rick Ross, and probably Kobe Bryant.
Okay. You don't want to add Pat Riley to the list? Dwayne Wade?
That's the only thing that makes me think that it's not set in stone, but the fact that it was just so off the bat, like I'm obviously exaggerating, but like right away he goes Eric Spoelstra for sure. And then let me think. I mean, you got obviously you could
Rick Ross is a crazy pull.
You could maybe have dinner with, say, Abraham Lincoln,
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Prince.
Kobe. Let's throw Kobe in there. And Rick Ross. But Noah Asenge, in a very similar circumstance, Kevin, they asked him who he models his game after. And can you guess the 3 players that he said?
I'm assuming they're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Or from the same organization at least. Kevin Durant?
No.
Oh. I don't know. Who was it?
Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, Kawhi Leonard. What are the odds on Noah Asenge to go number 9?
Yeah, can I amend my list? Can I make an amendment? I would love to. I mean, I know it's out there in the ether. Maybe some people tuned in and tuned out, and now that's their impression of it. But what are the odds on him to the Raptors?
Plus 130. I mean, I think I'm putting money on it.
I mean, that's plus odds.
I know.
It's dudes that were rumored to go to teams that are minus odds, right? Like on there. So I think if you can get plus odds on, and he's French. Going to Canada, I mean, this is, and I know Toronto is not necessarily like Montreal, you know what I mean? But
it's not too far.
Same country.
It's not too far either. It's pretty
Same
close
continent,
geographically.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that seems pretty set in stone here. But yeah, use our friends at Bet365. Sign up with our promo code PHNX, and use that deposit match bonus to get on some NBA draft props, because we're gonna make some money tonight, Kevin. I'm feeling good about this one.
Me too. I am as well. And if we'll have to see if Bet365 has some sort of line on Caleb Love, because before we get on out of here on our draft extravaganza show, I would love to talk about Caleb Love's potential to get drafted tonight. It's not looking very likely that Caleb Love gets drafted tonight. He's not really in any mock drafts. I was reading in AZ Desert Swarm this morning that the most big boards don't have him any higher than 70.
Yeah.
So there's an outside chance that, a team at the back end of the second round says, let's take a flyer on Caleb Love. And we would love to see that. Pun unintended there on accident. But I think that he is a player that is most likely to be an undrafted free agent. It would not be the first Arizona Wildcat to have a successful NBA career after being an undrafted free agent. We're seeing Kashad Johnson, I believe, do that right now. Or was he selected in the back end of that round? He was an undrafted free agent, right? Kashad?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, correct.
And Pella was a second-round pick.
Yes, okay. So I thought I flipped them, but I had it right the first time. We're seeing it right now, So I think Caleb Love could be one of those guys. And it honestly could benefit Caleb Love. I know that sounds crazy to say, but I think him having his pick of scenario, I think could go a long way to making sure his career is long and successful. Because I think if a team truly is looking at it, like, let's just take a flyer on him, and they're not like, I want this player in my organization, you know what I mean? Truly.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't really behoove Caleb Love in any real way. So if he does go undrafted, I think you could see him find an actually good fit for him and maybe carve out a spot on an NBA roster by the end of next season. I would love to see it. Do you feel like Caleb Love gets drafted tonight, or what do you think his future holds?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he does, just given what we're hearing right now. But I also could see him being the type of player that teams buy in on late as a second-round pick, because, similarly and to a lesser extent, but like similarly to the Walter Clayton discussion of things, like, there is something to be said about a very experienced college guard coming in and just providing you with NBA-ready minutes right away. And,
yes.
Tommy mentioned it with Andrew Nembhard, who obviously was a starter in the NBA Finals for the Indiana Pacers, and said that a lot of people thought that Andrew Nembhard was not going to be a, NBA prospect or a player that was going to get a ton of run in the NBA. And, he's a guy that just, and at the end of the day, like, he just had a very, very high floor as a player, because what you're getting in him from, the moment that he stepped on the floor. And he was, the first pick of the second round because of it, a little bit higher than what Caleb Love is regarded. But I'm a big believer in invest in college guards that are, playing at the highest level, but are, potentially, not, I keep saying, but a lot of college guards that are highly experienced and can provide minutes for you right away. I got distracted because Kevin has something very special on the screen for us at home.
Before we get out of here, we were talking about this earlier in the office. I'm kind of, I don't know what to say from here. We were talking about earlier in the office of what Carter Bryant's draft night fit is going to be like. And if Shane can overhear me, I would love if he came out to see this live, because we were talking about, okay, Carter Bryant probably going to go classic, probably going to go maybe even retro vintage. He might, show up over like too much fabric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As of about 30 minutes ago, and I'm getting this from, I believe, Wasserman Basketball, which is his representatives. Yeah, Wasserman Basketball on Twitter, at Was Basketball. Check them out. This is what we got. Wow. I mean,
Aura,
pecs. What are we? This is
the chain.
I mean, this is quite the fit, Carter. I don't know what to say about it. This is wild. I mean, you could have. That's
a GQ cover.
If we did betting lines for whether or not Carter Bryant would show chest at the NBA draft, I think I would have had it at plus 1,800, maybe even higher. That's a lot of chest, Dave. Are we allowed to show that on this channel?
Yeah, I don't know if that's legal here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel.
Oh wow, sorry, Espo. Whew.
Yo, you're getting
No,
a little hot
I'm
back
saying
there.
I'm saying Espo's gonna have to cool us down because we're showing some spicy content on this channel.
Totally.
And that's not. I don't know if that's allowed.
How about that, Carter Bryant? That's a side of Carter
That's
Bryant we haven't
bold.
seen yet.
That's that Jason Tatum part of him that he thinks he has in him. The boldness. You know what I mean? That's that. Like I think I'm the top 10 player. I think I'm gonna be the best player in the world.
That's a
kind of
star.
fit.
That's
That's what I was getting at.
That's
what
what star players wear to the NBA draft.
Yes. Yes. He's getting his Russell Westbrook on.
You look back at that and you go, the moment I knew Carter Bryant was going to be an all-star, and it's just that picture. But absolutely, Kevin.
Wow.
Good stuff from our guy Carter Bryant. We'll be monitoring what goes on at the NBA draft tonight on our channel. We'll be monitoring on it on our Twitter account at PHNX_Wildcats. Throw us a follow. We'll be live tweeting the entire thing. Hopefully, Caleb Love also joins Carter Bryant as an NBA draft pick tonight. Would be really cool to see, especially for a guy like Caleb Love that has, been a fan favorite and really had a storied collegiate career. Maybe isn't projected to have that career in the NBA, but definitely deserves the opportunity to do so. But Kevin, it's going to do it for you until next Wednesday. You will be headed out of town. Much deserved vacation, my guy. Enjoy it. Going to the A. It was a great time getting you for a couple of weeks before we lost you again. But enjoy your vacation, my guy.
I'm excited going to the College Football Hall of Fame. Going to a WNBA game there as well. So you'll be seeing it all on social media, and I'll have my tells and tales when I get back from the A.
Follow my guy Kevin at KevoPost. That's KevoPosts. Like he said, he'll be detailing his travels and tribulations on his way to Atlanta. College Football Hall of Fame's fun, man. Get us some Arizona content for the College Football Hall of Fame. I was there not too long ago, had a great time out there. So yeah, enjoy it. I am at Damon Dog. Follow me at Damon Dog, DAWG. Throw our show a follow. PHNX_Wildcats, already said it, but we'll be keeping you updated on the draft. And we will catch you tomorrow at 2 p.m. on another edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast. Special guest host Erica Day in the building, I believe. Actually, no, that's Friday.
Whoa!
Oopsies. But yeah, Erica will be here on Friday. But we'll have some guest co-hosts in the meantime with no Kevin Thomas. But until then,
Oopsies.
Peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Please draft Carter Bryant in the top 10.
We all silly like the mayor.